What's up everybody, Keith again, and today we're going to take a look at the brand new case from Cooler Master and their more budget oriented series, which is the NR600, and there is another version, the NR400. Now both of these are high airflow, small budget focused cases that both have the option to have a version with a 5 1/4 inch bay if that's something you're in the market for. But in this video, what I'm going to do is actually not sit here and talk to you and throw B-roll around. We're actually going to move the camera and look at it from different angles and talk about the different features of it, and that way maybe you can get a better idea of the case as a whole and if it offers what you would want in a case like this. So I'm going to get out of this part. I'm going to jump right over there and get started looking at that. Alright guys, and we're going to kick things off right here on the top of the case. As you can see, you've got your power button right here, reset button right here. Now when it's powered on, it's got a nice little white glowy right there, and then reset. Then you got two USB 3.1 Gen or 3.0 Gen 1. There's so many different versions of 3.0, it's crazy. But you do have a combination headphone microphone port, which is a bit of a split topic for me. Like I like that it does that, and I don't at the same time, because for a desktop it's kind of odd to have a combo. Like they make a lot of sense for laptops, but I don't know about a desktop. Let us know what you guys think about that. But moving over here, what you have is a very nice filter. It's very basic. Ours was actually a little bit off in the magnets that's on here, so it is magnetic. You can see here there's a little bit of a gap right there, but it does come off, and it reveals mounting points for 240 millimeter radiator or 220 millimeter fans, and then two 140 millimeter fans. But I'm going to show you later, you do not have room for a 280 millimeter radiator, and you have to be careful with a 240 millimeter radiator because it may have clearance issues. Let's all right, and on the back here, you can see it's flush. I always like when this is recessed a little bit. It just looks so much more clean, but it does give you a really ease of access from reaching around to plug in anything on the back. Now you do only have a single 120 millimeter fan on the back. Cooler Master did put in an airflow. It's a DC operated fan, so it's not PWM. If your motherboard supports PWM, or rather does a really good job supporting DC voltage fan, that's great. So you'll get good quiet operation from this fan. It is fairly quiet. And then as you move down here to the PCI Express expansion slots, you see here it's got a nice cover. I'm a really big fan of that. I got the screws out for just a minute because I wanted to show you what it looks like if you didn't have that, which is much more common from other case manufacturers in this price range. So you take it off, you've got that, and it's just very, I don't know, cheap looking in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and slide it right back on there. Kind of clips in, hard to do from this angle, but your power supply section here, it doesn't remove, so you have to go in from the inside, and it was a little bit of a problem, and I'll show you why once we get past the front of the case. Alright guys, so this is the front of the case. It is nice and smooth. It's very mesh. Now it doesn't have an actual mesh filter, but rather relies on the fine grain of the mesh, and we'll pull it off in just a second to show you, which is actually really easy. So you got a nice solid metal piece here. The whole front is metal, and all you have to do is pull from the bottom and it comes right off. And you can see through there how, well, not dense it is. So see the way it's attached in here. It's very nice. Long term, it'll be interesting to see how dusty it gets inside without an actual dust filter. But what you've got here is an air balance fan on the front. It comes with one, but you can see you've got mounting space on here for more. So you can do a single 140 millimeter on the front, which I'm not really a fan of that idea, but you can support up to a 360 millimeter radiator on the front, and when we get in the inside, you'll see just how that's possible. So you can either screw the fans from the back like this, or you can put the fans on the back side, put a little bit of distance between there. It gives you plenty of options on how you want to mount it. Alright, so this is with the back side panel off. You can see there are numerous spots all through the back of the case for tie downs. Now this is a full built out system as though you were going to actually use it. Now there's one thing that I didn't do too much of, was actually left two of the SATA cables off of there, but I've got all three hard drive bays down here, so it's 3.5-inch drive bays, and they use the sleds, so it's not a full cradle, so you're only going to be able to use 3.5-inch drives here unless you go with a 2.5-inch to 3.5-inch adapter. Then maybe you can put the slides on there to slide it in. But you see here, I've got, this is just a 2.5-inch drive here just for an example. So it's got these rubber pieces that can go in here, here, and even over here, because you can put an additional 3.5-inch, or if you don't want to use these down here because your power supply is too long, or you've got a radiator on the inside and you don't want to block any of this space, you can actually mount your 3.5-inch drive vertical here. But we've mounted them all down here. And the thing I like about this is it doesn't use like a caddy like some where it'll lock in and you got to screw it in and attach that. It actually uses rubber bushings and stems that attach here. Let me show you how easy it is to remove this. And it's secure. So like I can reach in here and do this. It is secure, but you can pull it right out. And it uses these stems right here, which is super, super nice and makes for real easy installation and removal. But if I do have one thing to complain about back here is, while this may seem like a lot of room down here, this EVGA 750BQ was actually really hard to get in here because even it's a semi-modular power supply and it was all up against the hard drive caddy, which you can move it, but just putting that out there, you got to be kind of careful with that, with the length of what you operate. Plenty of room back here. This 2.5-inch drive has a little bit of room left in it, but none of this cable management was difficult. It was actually very easy to do this. I spent very little time putting this together. In fact, the building in this was almost boring because there was no real challenge. It just kind of all fit and just wound it right up. And we're going to move to the other side to show you how the interior works, but I want to show you my favorite feature is how this door works. All right, so taking a look at the door here, it is tempered glass, and the power supply shroud on the bottom, which we'll take a look at in a minute, is actually part of the exterior solution, and it leaves the case very flush right there on the edges. So you can see here how flush the tempered glass is. You got your little Cooler Master logo here, but you got the thumb screws on the back. And what I want to do is show you how this works. So you take the thumb screw and you drop one, because they're not captive thumb screws. I'm going to gripe about that for a second, but for 70 bucks, I can kind of let that one go. But you take that loose and then you pull it back and it drops down. Now you got to be careful because you will drop it all the way, but it has little grooves in there that it sits in, which is a very, very nice design. Right in here is a groove, right here, and they sit in and they slide all the way. So let's get on in here and look at the inside of the case. We'll start on the bottom on the power supply shroud. All right, so here we are down in the bottom on the power supply shroud, and you can see here you've got this riser here, it's the same thing as here, so you can mount 3 2.5-inch drives down here on the bottom. Now and it's the same way as the back, so like if you wanted to, you can actually lift it up, take it out, but it's very, very secure, so you don't have to worry about it for moving around. My only concern is over a long period of time how well it'll hold up, and then changing parts in and out. This one, however, does not have a cutout on the back like this one and this one does for cables to go through, so you'll have to drape the cables over here or bring them in from this gap over here. Speaking of the gap over here, this is open for your radiators to go into. So fan, radiator, you can fit plenty of radiator space here. You could do push-pull if you wanted to. There's plenty of room for that down there. So 360 millimeter radiator space up front. You can see that the one fan is installed there, and you have that space. And you got plenty of room here to mount reservoirs if you want to. You can see the mounts from the inside for the 3.5-inch drive on the back. Now we did install an old AM4 setup here with an RX 570. Fully populated this setup best we could. And we're going to get into the bad boy here, the big gripe that I have with mounting up cooling on the top. All right, so here we are with it inside. Oh my goodness, the dust, lights will make that dust very visible. So I used a 120 millimeter all-in-one here. I could have used a 240, but I wanted to use the 120 because we're going to move the camera around in a second so you can see from this angle here what kind of space you have that you're working with. But I wanted to show you that back here, the top VRM heatsink is covered. In fact, it comes all the way down pretty much in line with your memory. So if you've got a 240 AIO, make sure that you don't have longer screws like this, the Master Liquid Series has, because it will interfere or could interfere with your memory height if you have higher memory. This is Corsair LPX or Vengeance LPX, so I use low profile memory in all my systems so that I never have compatibility issues. But you can see here there's room for the rear fan, and this is why you're not going to fit a 280 mil AIO unless you want to put the radiator in here and the fan set on top, and that's just kind of janky. I wouldn't really recommend that. You can see here the grommets are very nice. They're solid, they're thick, they're not flimsy. You're not going to pull them through whenever you're pushing cables through. So really good to see that. And that's about it. It's a very simple case, but it does its job very, very well. Now let's get on to the conclusion. Well, there you go, guys. That was the Cooler Master NR600, and I hope you got a good idea of what this case offers. And for $69.99, I feel like it offers quite a bit. Definitely worth the asking price, but there are some things you may want to consider. Like, do you want bigger up top radiators, because you're going to be limited there? Other than that, there's really not a whole lot of limitations on here. I feel like they did a really good job offering kind of everything you may need in a case for this price point, and probably one of the better implementations of a tempered slide glass connecting mechanism, I guess you would call it. All right, guys, been Keith with WCCF Tech TV. Let us know what you think about this case and more down in the comment section below. And make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so that we don't miss you in the next one.